My name is Paresh Gilani. I am actually the founder, co-founder, chair of XPRIZE India, also in the Vision Circle Motor Trustee at XPRIZE.
Fantastic. What prompted you to play such a significant role in helping establish XPRIZE India?
That actually takes me back many years. When about 96 or so, I actually had a young child, came to India, visited, and wanted to do something to address a grand challenge at that point. Pollution was a very, very big issue. At that point, two-wheelers and three-wheelers were really polluting the cities on a major way because they were using kerosene and whatnot and stuff. And what I thought that you could do, if you could do something with the pollution, that would be a very big thing. That led me to build electric scooters and rickshaws, and that was one of my first audacious thing to do. Is I could change, a little kid saying I could change this, and I built those prototypes. I brought it here. At that point, I kind of people looked at it as a little kind of funny way. Because is it a toy? Is it possible? Can it be done or whatnot and stuff? And then it didn't go too much forward, not because it was the wrong idea. It was actually more of how people didn't understand it. It was a little too early, or people weren't ready for some sort of crazy or audacious idea at that point. You can change the world that quickly and so far. And so I learned that it wasn't the wrong idea or a bad idea. It was something that I didn't have either platform, or maybe I didn't have it guidance, or people weren't ready for it. But that kind of led me to believe that if and when, was more a question of when, I will actually have resources to build a platform for like-minded people who actually has brilliant idea, who wants to make a difference on a very large scale. I would love to build something, give them a platform so they can come and do, crazy innovations that could actually move the humanity forward. And that's always wanted to do. So when I did get a resource, when I was exiting a company, Naveen Jain, dear friend of mine, came and asked me, goes, young man, what are you going to do? You're exiting, you'll have all the resources. That's when I said, this is what I want to do. And that's when Peter called and said, hey, we can do this together. And invited me to come join XPRIZE, and that one day, and so my passion's been XPRIZE India, not because of it's India. India is something that I'm familiar with, right? But if you look at India, it's more like you can compare this to the entire developing world, which they have a similar kind of problems which we don't get to see, living in LA or US per se, because we kind of miss those things, So I wanted to go into the developing world and say, hey, we can actually go there and actually look at the issues and maybe find a solution for those things that we don't realize sitting far away.
Sounds like you're really ahead of the curve with the electric bikes and stuff.
That was actually the curve. People thought I was a little crazy. And this is one very first time the dry batteries had come out. And I wanted to do something, and it was kind of a fun project. I learned a lot from that. I don't want to call it failure, but for sure I learned a lot from it. And kind of validated my thinking to say I like crazy thinking, I like big thinking, and I wanted to make a difference. I knew then that when I look at certain things, I look at anything and say status quo is not good enough. Can we disrupt it? And I think and now I see it. Scooters and rickshaws of India, and electric is also a sexy thing, and people understand it. They're actually achieving, so it's kind of good to see it come alive.
So you're a philanthropist on many levels. What about XPRIZE India stands out for you the most?
XPRIZE India, like I said, XPRIZE India stands out the most because we actually can come here. A unique country is a very big country. It's very, old country, has its own unique, mysterious issues, or actually good heritage and all kinds, beautiful world. It also comes along with its own unique challenges. It's obviously a developing world, but also has its culturally separate. So they have their own challenges. We talk about many things that we don't get to see, from sitting away, far away. So XPRIZE India, to me, is precious because there are a lot of things that we actually take it for granted in the developing world that say this is good. But people here, it's very unique. We look at the water price, for example, water issue. Everybody knows in the world that we have a water issue. Well, water issue in India is very different than water issue might be in the United States, for example, or any developing world. So water issue coming here, learning what is really the issue, coming ground and then coming up with a solution to address the challenges here makes it very unique. Obviously these kind of similarities could apply to developing world differently, but, absolutely India has its own unique strength and weaknesses, and we can address those challenges here. Makes it unique.
So you were instrumental in launching of XPRIZE India and of the Anu Navin Women's Safety XPRIZE and the Water Abundance XPRIZE. Why are they significant? So I don't know if you want to sum up all of them or if you want to go one by one.
I would separate them so that way we can use it for different videos.
The whole idea here was to actually, first of all, XPRIZE India has been passion of mine. For the very reason is because I'm familiar with the territory. I'm familiar with how to navigate what people are thinking. So it's easier for me to tackle and navigate things a lot more than any other countries would be. Although the idea of XPRIZE India was to say, let's go start India. Let's expand this wonderful model of XPRIZE so we can do some amazing stuff, right? Let's expand into the world. So India would be the great first expansion for us to go, and we can address those unique challenges within the developing world. India being very familiar with, and obviously wonderful couple of my friends, Naveen Jain, dear friend of mine for many years, and then Ratan Tata, Mr. Tata, he was also part of it, instrumental, which is a very, very amazing big name in India. So having us as a co-chairing and bringing this platform here to make it understand, make sense out of it, would be easier for us to actually expand. And then India actually happens to be somewhere that we actually somewhat familiar where the challenge it could be and how we can tackle it. And when we decided that we're going to launch this, which we did, and I was very passionate about it personally. And then when we looked at it, what do we want to do in India? So our approach was, well, we can, what we see from far away is, we have this issue, there are those other issues and stuff. We wanted to actually go really do a strategically dive deep and say, what are the real issues? Are we really looking at things that what people actually think they're issue, or we think that what the issues are? So that's when we started the process of saying, let's bubble it up more and go out and do mini visioneering every place and ask people, academias, NGOs, and experts and people, what do they really think their really issues are? And then what would they think that we need to be addressed somewhat? And although I had my personal choices right from the beginning, in a sense, I believe that this would be a great, unique way to do things. And women's safety was always, for me, was personal as well as, something that you see a lot of, problems happening, not only here and in the world as well. So we thought women's safety would be an amazing XPRIZE to launch in India, not only because there's an issues in India as we would speak about, but there also applies to the world. The solution is not only for India. Solution is a global solution or challenge per se. But so XPRIZE India and women's safety is absolutely, it could make a difference, large difference. There are many people we can actually help, the female, or just to make them feel secure. Just let them know the help could be on the way, and actually making them feel, from the office building to parking lot, or actually traveling in the bus somewhere, long distance stuff. Knowing that I may have something that that itself could actually help me. That itself to me it was so much valuable. And then, let alone when we did the study in the field, comes out, and that was one of the primary solutions they would love to see as well. So women's safety was definitely, what people actually thought was actually something we should address as well as we thought. It's dear as well. And obviously, Anu is very, passionate about women's safety as well. So that made sense for us. There was another issue, obviously, but there were a few other things as well, but then water issue came about, within the entire studies that we did, mini visioning, and we thought water issue, but water in India is different than water might have challenges in the rest of the world. So why did we actually launch these abundance water in India? So they pull water out of thin air type. Well, remote villages, people actually don't have those many resources. Electricity is not abundant in remote places. So how do we actually address those and actually have the water price that actually relevant to the developing world, particularly in India? So water came up, and we found a couple of sponsors who actually willing to actually partner with us. Also believes in water shortage as well. So, or at least a drinkable water. And we know, you saw the water issue. At least for drinkable, there's 50% disease could be a waterborne disease, and it actually can help villages. So those two actually popped up on top, and then we thought it would be great to address. Having a just simple drinking water, we take it for granted everywhere else, just here. Simple drinking water actually makes a huge difference in somebody's life. Family could be healthy, could go out, work, and study, do all of it. So has a larger impact. Obviously, there are many challenges that we can address within India and developing world.
Great. Anything else that you'd like to add that we missed?
I actually would love to see XPRIZE, India particularly, and the world to be expanding to a very large awareness that you could actually solve a lot of problems by addressing and challenging it, and having the crowdsourcing and crowd entrepreneurship to tackle the issue together, and actually let's have fun, but at the same time we can make a difference, and having the mind shift of just letting the entrepreneurs of the developing world, and in particular in India, to say we don't have to wait for the large organizations of the world to come and solve our problems. We can actually address our own issues, and we can take the matter on our hand and actually do things that we actually have addressed our own issues that are unique to us.